Hey everyone, Mike B back with another 100-year video. So today we're going to be looking at Italy as our nation. I did this with the United States with the exception of the Kelly helmet, the transitional helmet from the 30s. It's pretty interesting to myself and to other nerds that collect helmets, how far we've come and progressed in the past 100 years since we started using helmets in the military. Again, it's kind of a practice that was ditched for about 300, 400 years. But then it came back in the First World War. So here we've got the Italian Model 1916 helmet. Obviously this was a clone of the French Adrian helmet. Jeez, sometimes. It's a copy of the French Adrian helmet, but it doesn't have, it's not a three-piece shell design, it's just a two-piece. It's got the comb that's actually welded on, or soldered on, or whatever. There's no rivets holding it on. As you can see, it's just welded. It's part of the piece. It's a telltale sign that it's Italian. And then, yeah, it's made out of the same kind of chintzy, really lightweight steel, if it is even steel. And usually they had the badge for their branch there. This one is obviously without. So they used these from about 1916 up, actually, surprisingly, through the Second World War in a lot of reserve units. There's pictures of Italian anti-aircraft gun crews in North Africa, Sicily, and Italy wearing these. I mean, albeit they're few and far between, but technically these did serve through the end of World War II, and I'm pretty sure they used them as like fire helmets afterwards. They just repainted them. So yeah, this one had a pretty, impressive and average service length for an Adrian helmet. This is, I mean, I made a video on this, so I won't really go into detail, but here's what the liner looks like. It's pretty comfortable considering what it is. The leather is pretty thin, but it's still very, very pliable. You can still wear it and everything, and it actually fits my fat head. So it's got a little spacers in there. So there's that. I mean, it's a very primitive design, very simple, and yet it was used for, a little over 20 years. So now we're going to move on to the next variation that was actually used from the 30s on through the 90s. So here's what we have up next, everybody. The Italian M33, or Model 33, 1933 that is, steel helmet. So this is, besides the Bulgarian M1936, this is arguably one of the longest serving helmets, steel helmets in the world. Like, an entire military used it for that long, not just sporadic and sent to other, like, satellite countries to use in their conflicts, unofficially. So anyway, this particular helmet was the World War II style, right? Underneath this paint, it was repainted at some point. That kind of aqua-colored green was the color that the Italian M33 was painted during the Second World War. Featured a leather chin strap, and it was a typical 1930s and 1940s European liner system. It's got the tongues. This is an original liner. It's got the two little sewing marks right there instead of the Z shape, which is a later one. Still stamped. It's got its size marked right there. This is 58. If you can, here we'll try and see this. So that's how the sizes were stamped for the next, however long these things were issued. And this one's got a field repair on the chin strap, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, this is a World War II variant. That's how you can tell it's a World War II variant and not a post-war, which we'll get to in a second. This helmet obviously was used probably most for the better part of that 60 years that it was actually an official helmet of Italy, and it was repainted at some point to the later kind of olive drab. And yeah, this helmet actually was copied by the Bulgarians in 1951, and their little, it's commonly sold as the paratrooper helmet on eBay and other sites, is actually just a direct copy of this helmet. It's less quality and everything. These are some of the most high-quality helmets, apparently. I haven't ballistic tested one, but I'm hoping to do that in the future. And they're some of the most comfortable, and the design is, apparently, rumor has it, like I said, it's a rumor, that the US M1 was heavily influenced by the design, the kind of gradual slope instead of the German Stahlhelm style that's really defined. And apparently this was, inspired by a lot of different helmets, and also inspired different helmets. So probably one of the most iconic helmets of all time, and the Italians get to claim it as their own. So we'll get to the post-World War II version that was used up through the 90s. Very similar, but there's a couple differences I'd like to talk about, and then we'll move on to the most modern one. Alright, so here's the post World War II version. Notice the shell's identical in shape and design and everything. The rivets are the same. This one's got a little rust on it. And I forgot to mention that rivet system. The liner system's held on by just 3 rivets that also act as air vents. They're little pins that I'll show you on this one on the inside. And yeah, other than that, the helmet itself, the shape is identical. The color is a little bit more modern. It's a little bit more olive rather than that seafoam green. You can kind of see the chin strap is canvas now, or like a herringbone twill. It's just a heavy cotton, and it's got the single buckle in there instead of the old school like roller buckle. So I'll take this off of the head. You notice the size is still stamped right there in the little dots. But yeah, it's kind of like a floating liner system, which let me try and get the camera to. If you can see in there, here. I'm sorry about this, guys. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. Let me try moving the camera. If you guys can see it, yeah, there it is. That little like star-shaped pin. That's what pops through and actually holds the liner on. It's like a little green band that runs around the back of it, like 3/4 of it. That goes down, and it's got little strands or straps of metal that hold the liner band on, and the leather fits on over that. So it's actually a really comfortable liner, and it removes direct contact from the shell, so obviously you can reduce shock damage like that, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, just the same style liner and everything, but you'll notice the Z stitching on the back instead of just the 2 lines. That was kind of to just add some reinforcement to it a little bit. Chin strap's different, but yeah, other than that, this is the version that was used up until the 1990s. I think a little bit farther by like some reserve units and possibly some honor guard units or something like that. And it was also, yeah, like I said, one of the most long-serving Italian helmets. And it was also one of the longest-serving helmets because of that. Although it went through 2 versions, it's just pretty much like saying the US M1 and then the Vietnam version of the M1. Same helmet, couple different modifications, same design. So now we'll move on to the modern one, and it's surprisingly going to be a short video considering there's only 3 helmet designs. So from about the mid-1990s until very recently, if not earlier this year, 2017, the Italian military used the SEP-2, SEP-2, or SEPT-2 helmet. It's made out of Kevlar. It's a pretty rigid helmet design. It's obviously modeled after the PASGIT helmet, the Personal Armored System Ground Troops, the US Kevlar helmet. And I think they might still use these, or they might be phasing them out slowly, but I know for a fact they're still used by reserve units and stuff like that. And these feature like a weird chin strap system that crosses in the back of the neck, and then buckles. This isn't supposed to be on the neck, it's supposed to be on the chin, but I kind of screwed up the strapping or webbing when I threw this thing on the dummy head, or the foam head. But yeah, so anyways, yeah, it's a pretty simple design, and it's got the rubber gasket around it for protection, to protect the edge. Now we'll actually take this off and show you the liner system. I'm going to show you the sticker that's on the inside. So you got just kind of like the French-inspired design with the one pad on top with the floating suspension and the rubber pads, or foam pads, and then you got a sweat band, and then the chin strap, of course, and they all held on by screws that actually go through the shell. And here is the sticker. God, sorry, I'm going to get these damn straps out of the way. Alright. So yeah, you can see that. They made these in a couple different sizes. This is a 57 to 58, or size 2. And I think they made 3 or 4 sizes, I'm not sure. So it's kind of a combination of like Soviet and Polish design, where they've got like 3 different helmet sizes instead of saying, you know, it's this shell size or whatever. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's pretty cool. These are all serialized, which I found very, very interesting. So yeah, that's 100 years right there. The Italians have got one of the smallest or least amount of helmets that they've gone through in the past 100 years. I mean, when you're looking at Germany, West and East combined, because you have to mention both, when you look at even the United States went through quite a few different designs. When they start something and then they either modify it or they just come up with a totally different design. and the Soviet Union, etc., Poland, have all gone through drastic changes in their helmets in the 20th century. But Italy's had 3, and that was pretty interesting, I thought. So, yeah, the M33 is pretty cool. The SEP2 Kevlar helmet's pretty cool, and the Model 1916 is pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let's take a look at 100 years of Italian Army helmet technology. So if you got any questions, you can message my Facebook page. And thanks to everyone. Thanks to my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. Hopefully you like this video. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And it'd be pretty cool if you could become a Patreon supporter. You get early access to videos like this and other things. And I post videos on Patreon that I don't post on YouTube, or I don't make public on YouTube, including live streams. So it behooves you. Only $1 a month. You go to Patreon and become a supporter, and you can see it like these guys saw this video several days before you did. So, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.